The Invisible Revolution: How Black Women's Visibility is Transforming Industries and Building Generational Wealth. Welcome. I want to begin by acknowledging something profound that's happening right now in the world of business and finance. A revolution so powerful yet often invisible to mainstream media. A transformation being led by women who have spent their entire careers being underestimated, overlooked, and excluded. Today, I'm sharing insights from my transformative conversation with Daphne Dufresne, a true pioneer who has shattered glass ceilings throughout her 25-year career in private equity. As one of the exceedingly rare Black women to found her own buyout firm, Awani Capital Management, Daphne isn't just changing the financial landscape, she's fundamentally reimagining it. Her work is creating pathways for generations of underrepresented voices to build wealth and influence in spaces where they've historically been excluded, locked out, and dismissed. What struck me most about our conversation wasn't just Daphne's impressive financial acumen, though make no mistake, her expertise is formidable. It was her revolutionary perspective on what truly drives success in leadership. And that perspective is what I want to explore with you today because it challenges everything we've been taught about power, influence, and transformation. We've been told a story about success in business, a story that says it's all about the numbers, the deals, the technical expertise, a story that says you must conform, assimilate, and play by rules written by and for people who don't look like you. But what if that story is fundamentally incomplete? What if we've been missing something transformative about how real change happens? Here's the counterintuitive truth I learned from Daphne: success in private equity and in any leadership journey isn't primarily about financial acumen or deal making prowess. It's about intentionally creating spaces where underrepresented voices, especially Black women, are not only included but empowered to drive change and innovation. This insight challenges everything we think we know about building wealth and influence. We've been taught that the path to success means following established routes, mimicking those who came before us. But Daphne's experience reveals something different: that stepping outside traditional paradigms and actively seeking opportunities in underserved markets can create extraordinary value, both financially and socially. Think about that for a moment. We've been operating under the assumption that the well trodden path is the safest, the most reliable. But what if the greatest opportunities lie precisely where others aren't looking? What if the most transformative leadership doesn't come from fitting in, but from standing out unapologetically, visibly, powerfully? Let me share three revolutionary principles that emerged from my conversation with Daphne that illuminate this new paradigm. First, embrace visibility as power. For Black women entrepreneurs, especially, being seen, unfiltered and unfazed in professional spaces is not a luxury. It's not vanity. It's a radical act of empowerment. When Daphne walks into boardrooms where she is often the only Black woman, her very presence disrupts expectations and challenges assumptions. Visibility isn't just about personal recognition, it's a strategic tool for influence, access, and opportunity. It says, I am here, I belong here, and I will not diminish myself to make you comfortable. Second, success requires both excellence and community. Achieving milestones in business goes hand in hand with uplifting others along the way. Daphne didn't just focus on closing deals and generating returns. She intentionally built networks that support diverse talent, understanding that her individual success meant little if it didn't create pathways for others. This approach amplifies impact far beyond individual accomplishments. It transforms not just outcomes, but entire systems. And third, there is transformative potential and untapped value in backing businesses led by diverse founders who serve overlooked communities. This approach not only drives returns, but also reshapes industries from within. When Daphne invests in entrepreneurs who have been systematically excluded from traditional capital, she's not just making a financial decision, she's making a statement about whose ideas matter, whose solutions count, whose leadership we value. These principles aren't just theoretical, they're being proven in the real world right now by leaders like Daphne Dufresne. After decades in private equity, including as managing partner at Gen X 360 Capital Partners, Daphne launched Awani Capital Management, making her one of the few Black women to found a buyout firm. The challenges she faced were substantial. Breaking into an industry with significant barriers for women of color, accessing capital and networks designed to exclude her, establishing credibility as both an investor and a leader in spaces that questioned her very right to be there. But rather than seeing these challenges as insurmountable obstacles, Daphne leveraged her impressive track record. She had led deals with Aero Repair, GenServe, and Precision Aviation Group at GenNX 360 and worked at RLJ Equity Partners, founded by Robert L. Johnson. This experience built trust among investors focused on diversity driven growth. The result? Awani Capital Management now acquires mid sized companies while centering support for diverse entrepreneurs targeting underserved markets. Daphne's journey began at leading firms where she consistently advocated for diversity alongside operational excellence, a dual focus now embedded into Awani's DNA. Her leadership expands representation at the highest levels of finance while channeling investment toward communities historically excluded from private equity benefits. This is what happens when visibility, empowerment, and community impact intersect through entrepreneurship. And Daphne isn't alone in this revolution. Consider Ursula Burns, the former chairman and CEO of Xerox, who co founded Integrum Holdings in New York City after breaking glass ceilings throughout her corporate career. Burns faced the challenge of transitioning from executive roles into private equity, navigating skepticism about non traditional founders, entering finance, and securing buy in amid limited representation. Her solution, she built on her reputation as a transformational leader who values inclusion by prioritizing investments across insurance services, financial services, and business services sectors, all areas ripe for disruption through diversity led strategies. The outcome has been remarkable. Integrum Holdings is now an influential player investing millions into businesses committed to equitable growth models. Burns' ascent from intern at Xerox to CEO set new standards around what was possible for Black women executives and inspired generations behind her. As the first Black woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company and now a co founder and investor, Burns demonstrates how lived experience can inform investment choices that challenge status quos while driving measurable results. Her work highlights how trailblazing leaders use their platforms post corporate life to build inclusive investment ecosystems. There's also RLJ Equity Partners, founded by Robert L. Johnson, the BET founder, alongside Carlyle Group Partners, with Daphne Dufresne serving previously as managing director. This firm was created specifically to invest in middle market companies led by people of color or serving minority communities. The challenge they faced was addressing chronic underinvestment in minority owned enterprises despite clear market demand and proving ROI within traditional private equity frameworks that were skeptical about what they considered non mainstream deals. Their solution? They developed tailored sourcing strategies, focused on cultural competence and market knowledge unique to diverse founders and businesses, a model later adopted more widely across private equity sectors thanks partly to RLJ's success stories. The outcomes speak for themselves. Multiple successful exits demonstrating both strong returns and social impact metrics tied directly back into minority wealth creation pipelines. RLJ was formed during early waves recognizing DEI gaps within institutional investing circles, with seasoned professionals like Dufresne advancing its mission hands on over several years before launching their own ventures. With dozens of portfolio companies grown and scaled via capital infusions and operational expertise targeted toward long term sustainability, not just quick flips. RLJ helped normalize the idea that intentional investments can drive alpha and address systemic inequities simultaneously. This exemplifies the collective power that emerges when experienced leaders create platforms purpose built around empowering marginalized groups through business ownership and investment pathways. What these stories reveal is a profound truth. The most transformative leadership doesn't come from playing by existing rules, it comes from rewriting them entirely. When Daphne Dufresne creates space for underrepresented entrepreneurs, she's not just making deals, she's dismantling barriers that have kept generations of brilliant minds from accessing capital and opportunity. She's saying the old way isn't good enough. We deserve better and we can build better. When Ursula Burns brings her lived experience as a Black woman to investment decisions, she's not just allocating resources, she's challenging fundamental assumptions about whose insights matter in finance. She's saying, my perspective isn't a liability, it's my greatest asset. And when firms like RLJ Equity Partners prove that investing in overlooked communities creates both financial and social returns, they're not just generating profits, they're exposing the lie at the heart of exclusionary practices. They're saying there is enough. There has always been enough. The problem was never the resources, it was the distribution. This revolution in finance parallels the revolution happening in our individual lives. It's about rejecting the false choice between success and authenticity, between excellence and wholeness, between impact and joy. So here's my challenge to you today: stop asking for permission to be seen. Stop waiting for someone to invite you to the table. Stop believing that your difference is a deficit rather than your greatest strength. Instead, embrace visibility as your birthright. Claim space unapologetically. Build community intentionally. Seek opportunities where others see only obstacles. And remember that your unique perspective, shaped by your identity, your experiences, your challenges, is precisely what the world needs most desperately right now. Because the truth is, we don't need more people who are willing to contort themselves to fit into broken systems. We need leaders who are brave enough to be seen, unfiltered and unfazed, as they create new systems altogether. The most radical act isn't always fighting harder within structures that weren't built for you. Sometimes the most radical act is creating your own structure and inviting others in. Sometimes the most radical act is visibility itself. How will you use your influence not just your resources, to create space where those who look like you can thrive unapologetically? What bold step will you take this week toward making visibility your superpower? Because visibility isn't just about being seen, it's about creating space where others can be seen too. It's not just about claiming your place at existing tables, it's about building new tables with room for everyone. The invisible revolution is waiting for your voice, your vision, your courage. The time for hiding, for shrinking, for apologizing is over. Step into your power, claim your visibility, transform not just your life, but entire industries. Thank you